Well, let's get more now on that story and speak to Richard Tanter. Richard is a Senior Research Associate at the Nautilus Institute for Security and Sustainability. He joins us by Skype from Melbourne. Richard, radiation levels seem to have been underestimated and radiation is now leaking. Would you say some in the Japanese public are at risk?
Undoubtedly, that's true. Certainly for the workers who are exposed to these extraordinary levels of radiation. Assuming those radiation levels are true, there is the possibility they're actually very high and off the scale. So, but even if they're wrong by 10 times, so in other words, even if the radiation detected in that part of the facility is only 1 sievert, that's extraordinarily high. And I think this really plays into the fears of many people in Japan that the government and TEPCO have not come clean, not just about the radiation levels within the facility, which have now been shown to be extraordinarily variable internally, but also around the facility. It's not a matter of a simple set of concentric circles, that we're now finding large hotspots, micro hotspots, and citizens are very concerned about what the government has not been telling them about this.
Is one problem that the public have, and that's who to believe, because the politicians and NISA, the Japanese Nuclear and Industrial Safety Agency, seem to be telling very different stories.
Well, I think now there is a gathering scandal which the government has admitted, and I suspect that some parts of the government are quite pleased to have out in the open that NISA is now known to have encouraged, for example, utility companies at hearings about nuclear power stations as recently as last month to get pro-nuclear speakers and citizens there in front of the microphone, so to speak, encouraging them to email in. In other words, the regulator has not had clean hands on this. This actually plays into the position of the Prime Minister, Kan Naoto, who has really staked his political future on his dream of now what he says is a nuclear-free Japan. That's not going to happen, but a very recent, just 2 days ago, Cabinet brought down a document which said in an interim report, Japan will begin to lower the number of nuclear power stations. And so I think there's been a big shift, both in public opinion and also within the government. There's a fight there, but it is shifting.
It certainly is. I mean, it could be described as a seismic shift without any sense of irony. But one of the big worries is, of course, the food supply. There's already been stories about green tea, about beef, about rice. Do you see any threat to the Japanese food supply?
Well, I think just today, Tochigi Prefecture, or beef from Tochigi Prefecture has been banned in Japan. Certainly, there's enormous fear about this, and particularly, again, because there is a sense that the government didn't do its job in telling, for example, telling farmers within weeks of the initial accident, don't feed the cows rice straw that may have been contaminated. It was contaminated. That beef is now impossible to sell. Equally, for fishing people along that coast, there's no chance of selling their product. So it's very hard to actually separate out the reality, which is pretty bad, and people's fears there as well.
Richard Tanter in Melbourne. Thanks for joining us, Richard.
Thank you.